Ready?
Got head coach Travis Hudson, Coach will open it up with a statement, then we'll jump into questions.
Well, 17-6. That's not bad considering we were 4-6 a few weeks ago. But we've continued to get better throughout every week. Obviously, this is a big one coming up this week. It's the two undefeateds in Conference USA play. We're both 10-0, I think, going into the matchup this weekend. This is going to be a major challenge for our team. UTEP is having a tremendous year. I think they're 20-2, and they're they're in the low 40s in the RPI. They're in a good position to potentially get an at-large bid for the NCAA tournament. Deservedly so. They're playing really well. It's going to be a real challenge going in there and playing in front of they'll pack that place with a few thousand people, and so the challenge is going to be great for our team, but we're looking forward to it.
I think you touched on it a little bit after Saturday's game too, though. That's also where conference tournament is this year.
It is.
So not only is this kind of a battle for first, but in a way it's kind of a barometer test for you guys. Where if you want to win a conference championship, you're going to have to do it.
Yeah, there's no question. I'm really glad we have to go down there in the regular season because the tournament's going to be there. They have a great atmosphere there. They hosted several rounds of the NIVC tournament last year, and the city of El Paso really got behind it, and they put great crowds and atmospheres in there that I know we'll see this weekend when we go in there, and certainly even a bigger one when we go back for the tournament. And that's why we played the early season schedule that we did. We played at Kentucky and at Michigan State and some of these tough environments to kind of prepare ourselves for just that. And so I'm really glad to go down there because ultimately it's going to be about winning the conference tournament. And so I don't really think anything bad can come of this weekend, if that makes sense. If you go down there and find a way to win a match or two, then obviously you're still in control of the regular season race. And if you don't, then you have a really good barometer of what it's going to take a month from now to go back there and find a way to win that tournament.
I think kind of a lot of thought. We haven't talked to you since your tail end of your 6 games and 9 days there. Can you just kind of touch on the FIU series there? Both 5-set matches. Just kind of what you saw out there and what you got.
Yeah, that was just a really difficult stretch to play 6 matches in 9 days, and I think it was very telling that FIU didn't have to play those 2 midweek games because of the hurricane, and obviously they were dealing with a lot, but they were able to rest their bodies, and so we just hung on for dear life down there and found a way to get those 2 that I think shook us a little bit confidence-wise, to be honest. I think we were still, fighting the effects of that a little bit this weekend. But at the end of the day, I think you don't want to be in situations like that where you're fighting on the road in a 5th set. But at the same time, I think those things are things you can lean into a little bit when things get hard. And so, we came through it and we're able to finally get a little bit of rest last week, but I think we were still feeling the effects of it a little bit against La Tech, and now we're back into a true normal game week, and hopefully we'll be a good version of ourselves.
You mentioned that Saturday too, and obviously the numbers kind of supported how well you played offensively, but you said really the test is going to be getting more consistency out of your defense.
Yeah.
What kind of challenge does UTEP present to you defensively that's going to be big for you?
Yeah, they're almost like looking in a mirror. When you look at our stat sheet beside theirs, we're 2 of the better offensive teams in the country. We're 2 of the better blocking teams in the country. They put a ton of pressure on from the service line. That's one of the things that they've really been able to separate. I think they're like second in the nation in service aces a game, and they had 16 aces in a 3-set match against Jacksonville State last weekend. So they put an extraordinary amount of pressure on you from the service line, and that can be really disruptive. It's one of those deals where they're going to bring it from the service line, and if it's a night where they're bringing it and they're all falling in the court, then it's going to be a long night for you. And but if they're missing more than they're making, then hopefully you can turn it in your favor. a little bit. But they're they're everything you want to be in a good team. They're balanced, across the board. They don't have one singular player that stands out because they're so balanced everywhere. That's what we're trying to achieve also. And, they can beat you in a lot of ways. They can defend. They can play offense. And, and we've been extraordinarily good offensively. And, defensively, it's been bits and pieces for us. And so it's going to have to be a much more concerted effort defensively if we're going to be in those matches.
Obviously, they're big stakes this weekend,
Mhm.
with two undefeated teams. But in the bigger picture, how much do you think this is kind of big, maybe even for the conference? Because these are two teams that certainly are building
Mhm.
resumes that suggest that
Mhm.
they should be an at-large team. How important do you think it is from that standpoint?
Yeah, it's just, this is to this point, the two best teams clearly in the league. And, UTEP's been on a consistent climb over the past several years, and they've been very, very close. And we've played some really competitive matches with them, and they're really well coached, and they're really balanced, and they're really, again, when I build a team, they reflect a lot of the things that you want to be as a team. And, it's going to be a buzzsaw when we walk in there this weekend. We've been at the top of the mountain for a while, and they've been right there, clawing their way up there year after year after year. And, just look at it in reverse. They've got, the however many time champion coming in the door, and they're the highest ranked team in the league this year and undefeated and playing at home and have a chance to, do a lot of special things. And so we know what we're up against this weekend, and we're going to have to be better than a good version of ourselves. But it's great for Conference USA. Conference USA had some really special years when Western Kentucky and Rice were going at it year in, year out in women's volleyball. They were just epic. And, UTEP is a nationally worthy team now. They are playing on a national level and can play with just about anybody in the country. And so great for the league. Maybe tough for us this weekend. We'll find out when we get there.
I remember last year when they were here, it looked like they were going to force you to go to 4 or 5 until the injury happened to the outside. What is your message to players when, like you said, it's going to be a tough environment, but if these matches are probably not going to go to 3, they're going to go to 4 or 5 and ruin back-to-back.
Yeah, that's why there's, when it's going to be long, tough, competitive stuff like we're going to see this weekend, again, you say, what is it? You tell your team. I think you have to put your team through it. And that's why we did what we did in our non-conference schedule, is we put ourselves through it. We went through a stretch, against Marquette and Illinois and Dayton and Kentucky and Tennessee, and we put our teams through it. So, there's nothing that's going to happen this weekend that we haven't experienced. Now, are we in a position right now to be able to handle it and find a way to win? I don't know. We'll find out when we get there. We certainly have our weaknesses still, but that's what I was referring to at the beginning. But regardless of outcome this weekend, I will be glad we went through it, because the ultimate is what happens in November. And so when we go back down there, we'll have a much better indication of what we're in for when we go back in November.
You mentioned they're one of the best service teams in the country. We talked about service league multiple times this year. Is that kind of, one of the focus y'all going into?
No question about it. That's the worst part of the matchup between us and UTEP, is their ability to be super aggressive from the service line and our inability to handle it and serve receive at a super high level. But I lean back into, that could very well be the story of the weekend. If we don't handle the ball and serve receive, we'll never give ourselves a chance. And, again, I give you these comparisons, but, you can have an All-American quarterback, but if they don't have time to stand back there and get passes off, because of a pass rush, then they're not ever going to get started with their offense. And that we've got to get our offense. We have one of the best offenses in the country, but we have to have the ability to get it moving. And handling the ball in serve receive will be a big piece of that. And we've only been okay in serve receive this year to this point. But another team that we play that puts a ton of pressure on from the service line is Kentucky. We played Kentucky early in the year, and man, they put a ton of pressure on, and we held up okay. It wasn't the difference in that match. And so you know, we'll handle it the way we've handled it all year. And, you know, to counteract it, we have to put a ton of pressure on from the service line as well. That's where we can kind of close the gap, is to put the same kind of pressure on them, you know, as opposed to just standing back there and hoping that we handle it well.
Coach, during these 13 wins in a row, you know, you've had your younger girls and your newer members of the team really filling those roles and get comfortable, especially Olivia on Saturday, nearly 20 kills in that match. Can you kind of talk to their importance, her and the rest of the newer members?
Incredible what Olivia's done. Olivia started really hot this year and then kind of hit a little bit of a lull, but now you're seeing things start to grow in her, you know. And I say this all the time with players: you very rarely ever take a big step forward without taking a little one backwards, because you have to get uncomfortable. You have to change things that you do. And but when you stand back and look at the year that kid's having quietly, it's kind of getting overlooked a little bit because, you know, of the year Kaylee Cox is having or Kennedy Coyle's having. But I think Liv is up to like a 270 hitting percentage now, you know, and for a true freshman, like, that's pretty remarkable number for a kid that's taken the number of swings that she's taken. And so her future is really, really bright. But she's had, like, it'd be hard pressed to find a better freshman in Conference USA this year than what Olivia Skidmore's been.
You talked about before how, you know, each year every team is different. You played UTEP twice last year. You beat them in the semifinals of the conference tournament. You know, it's kind of the similarities and differences between last year's teams and this year's.
Yeah, we beat them in the semis last year in 5, you know, which tells you how, you know, and that was a second round NCAA tournament team we had. And so it's going to be a battle. Like I said, you know, I don't think we walk in there with people that aren't biased thinking that we're the favorite this weekend, you know, going to their place. And, you know, the differences in our team and their team, you know, we don't have Paige Briggs. That makes a difference. But we're a much more balanced team than we were a year ago. So we don't handle the ball quite as well, but we're way more balanced offensively and a better blocking team. UTEP has been pretty balanced. You know, they had the unfortunate injury when they were here last year that really changed them a little bit, but they were on a trajectory last year to be an NCAA tournament team. And so they're veteran, they're athletic, like they have very few weaknesses. And so it's just kind of like when we were in that stretch early in the year with all those top 25 teams. When you go into it, you know, we went into the Tennessee match, I said, look, it's going to be a long match. Like, if we're lucky, it's going to be a long match. You know, when we played Marquette, I said, if we're playing well, it'll be a long match, because you just know you're not going to run away from teams of that caliber. And they are very worthy of that. They have, they're a hard watch on film. They have a lot of balance, a lot of different kids that can beat you, and I would say the same thing about us. And so it should be a really fun matchup to see kind of where both of us are with a month to go.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys.